you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
There we go. All right. Thanks for watching, folks. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter if you don't already, while I still have a Twitter account. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, at People's_Pundit. Today at 2 o'clock, which is why we're going to focus more on the polling this episode, because at 2, if you can make it, Barnes and I will talk about a lot of the news that we've missed since, everything has happened. All right. So when we come back, we'll do that too. All of the lawsuits, but really, since we have been on the air, there's been a couple things that have happened, right? So in Georgia, free Laura, right? They took me away before, asked me to verify stuff, and so it is what it is. I'm back now, but I couldn't tweet before because of that earlier today. But no, not much sleep at all. But anyway, what I want to do during Inside the Numbers is talk about the preliminary results of the Georgia poll number 2, Peach State Battleground Poll Part 2, and then look more at the findings of the election integrity results that we never really got to go over. All right. And then there's an article that I wrote on People's Pundit Daily, because the fake polls just keep getting pushed out. I'm at the point where there's just no good explanation. You can't poll an election, so your first thought is to circle back and try to poll something as important as whether or not voters in this country think election integrity was preserved, whether or not Joe Biden legitimately won the election, whether or not election officials counted mismatched signatures, whether or not people even had faith in this system. And let's start there, and then we'll look at Georgia specifically. I will say this, and again, we'll probably talk more about this too on What Are the Odds, but Robert may have been right with Raphael Warnock. So in our first poll, we actually had Warnock doing worse than John Ossoff, okay? So we had Warnock a little bit stronger against Loeffler than Ossoff was against Perdue. And in the November vote, Perdue was much, much better. I mean, there was only 2 people on the ballot. It was basically a jungle primary. So you had 2 Republican candidates and a slew of Democratic candidates, Raphael Warnock being the central Democratic candidate. And Loeffler didn't, she got 30% of the vote, right? You had Doug Collins get about 20% of the vote. So close to 50, but not quite there. All right. So basically, what I want to look at is something that maybe happened. Raphael Warnock may be taking a bit of a hit with all of the stories that came out. And there also may be a little bit about a little social bias. In the South, folks, this happened with Gillum too, even in Florida, which is much more diverse than Georgia. In the South, people, when it's tough, it can be tough to poll black candidates. Just no doubt about it. Well, I'm not saying anybody's more racist than the other. I'm saying that there are whites in the South, and there tend to be more suburban and metro, that are kind of afraid to tell you whether or not they're going to vote for they're going to vote against a black candidate. And that's true no matter what their party affiliation is. And it's been around for a long time. But anyway, let's take a look at this article. I want to read it real quick, because the fact of the matter is we polled 6 battleground states at least going into this election for the Public Polling Project. We're the only ones who asked about trust in mail-in balloting, the expansion of mail-in balloting. Everybody wants to jump on this train now, but after blowing every single state, who the hell cares what they say? Who cares? Because here we go again, finding wildly different results than everybody else. They're not just wrong. They're full of crap. And I'm sick of it. Reliable being the key word here. Reliable polls show voters do not trust vote by mail expansions. Reliable being the key word. Accurate polling warns of election integrity crisis. And with what we saw in Georgia yesterday, the court refuses to hear it. You got no standing before the election. You got no standing before the election. You got no standing during the election. You got no standing after the election. Here we have half the public who thinks the country is the elections are rigged. This country is a sham. The electoral process in this country is now a sham. And if there's no remedy for that, where do they expect 50 million people, 50% of the public, to vet their grievances? All right. Anyway, reliable polls conducted before and after the election show voters do not trust vote by mail and understand the likelihood of it leading to an increase in election fraud. The Inside the Numbers Election 2020 Public Polling Project, conducted by Big Data Poll, released polling in 6 battleground states and was within the sampling era juxtaposed to actual results. And everybody else. We had states where we were off, like Trump. We benefited Trump a little bit. We're off by about 2.5 points for Donald Trump in Arizona. Off by about 2.5 points for Joe Biden in Minnesota. Not misses because they're within the sampling era, but variations in both direction. Unlike Nate Cohen at the New York Times, who had more money than God to poll this election and forecast it and blew every single state. Basically even the states that he got Biden right in, he blew because he was outside the sampling era. Do we have to pull up his egregious record again? Ohio? He was right there with Quinnipiac. Morning Consult, the rest of them. You got some nerve, man. Poll an election correctly first. Then come back and tell us what the country thinks about something. See, an election is the pollster's only real test of accuracy. They can put out whatever they want about what people think about this issue, what people think about that issue. You'll never know whether or not that's accurate until they poll an election, which is why Gallup gave up the horse race. They don't even horse race anymore. All right. Anyway, the track record makes the project, which was funded solely by podcast viewers, incredible. Among the most accurate this cycle, if not the most accurate. And I think that's probably true. Surveys asked specifically about voters' trust, or lack thereof, in the integrity of the election, given various changes to the electoral process, to include the expansion of vote by mail. So the question stated, and there was a prompt, what we call a prompt. And it says, there's been a lot of talk about election fraud, given changes. Here are the changes that are being proposed. Extensions of deadlines, the expansion of vote by mail, solicited and unsolicited, the lapse of photo ID, and I can show you in Georgia, they're full of crap. Photo ID was, I can't believe I'm even hearing people claim this. Photo ID was not required for absentee ballot voting in Georgia. All right. And then we asked, after all of that led and prompt, we said, if state and local officials mail unsolicited ballot requests or ballots to everyone on the voter rolls, how much trust would you have in the integrity of the election result? And that is what happened. And that's why we tell you that this was really an outsourced fraud. If you live in one of these states, you know, and you have an address that previous people had that are still on the voter rolls, how many ballot requests did you receive? What if you just wanted to be a little naughty? Who was checking? I tried to go through Georgia, the work we have done so far. Right now, there is 157. It's a lot. CSV files, because this entire file is so big. We're talking about ballot requests. There were no challenges. Rejections were not for mismatched signatures. Very few were. Rejections were for, there are more instances of people walking into the voting booth and saying they wanted to vote, and the election official telling them that they had voted already by absentee ballot, which they did not, apparently. There's more of that than there are challenges to ballots. Believe that? All right. So anyway, that's the question. In Arizona, a state in which vote by mail has historically represented 8 in 10 of the total statewide vote. They're not new to this. Polling conducted from October 16th to 20th found nearly half of all likely voters had either not very much, 29.5%, or none at all, 17.4%. This is a state that has been doing mail-in voting for years. They understood the difference. That's what they don't want to tell you. Most people understand this. They do. In Florida, another state in which vote by mail or absentee ballot voting has been common for years. Polling conducted from September 26 to 27 also found nearly half of all likely voters had either not very much, 28%, almost identical, confidence, or none at all, 17.8%, almost identical to Arizona. Worth noting, in states where vote by mail was not prominently used, the statistical difference in confidence was small, but it was worse nonetheless. In Pennsylvania, which is a state, by the way, this vote by mail thing was brandy new in Pennsylvania. Early voting itself never took hold in the state of Pennsylvania until this election cycle. They just didn't do it. Democrats tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. They could never get it through the legislature. So instead, like they did in other states, they just circumvented the legislature. All right, so in Pennsylvania, slightly larger percentages had not very much, 29% confidence, or none at all, 18.2%. Up from mid to high 17s for none at all, and up from 29%, not very much in the other states. All right, that story read the same. And you guys know this. If you watch the show, you know this. We went over these polls one after the other. Who was right? Who was wrong? So with all the polls coming out now that show something wildly different, my question is simple. Who was right and who was wrong on the election? Who's telling you the truth? Who was blowing smoke up your... They're full of crap. They are full. It's more than just being wrong. They're full of crap. Because if they really cared, they would have stopped and taken a second instead of pushing this fake crap that 60% of Joe voters approve of the job the president-elect is doing. What the hell does that mean? He's not doing a job. He fell down and broke his ankle playing with his dog or slipped in the shower or what. Give us a break. Just like he was ahead by 17 in Wisconsin, 11 in Pennsylvania, 11 in Michigan. Give me a break. Anyway, that story was the same if you watch the show across all the battlegrounds. And even nationally, when we polled for the Epoch Times, that poll was conducted August 26th to August 30th. We found almost the same amount, a little bit more actually, with none at all. but just about the same amount. Had not very much, which was 21.2, a little lower confidence, but higher, none at all, 22, just about 22. By the way, nailed it. Nailed that. No Biden plus 11 there, okay? Vote by mail increases fraud by party. Look at this graph. And I don't normally show these heat graphs like this, but it really shows you who's in line with who, right? Even, this is Georgia, where we just can, and we'll take a look at this in a bit, okay? But obviously, Democrats are less likely to say that they strongly agree. And we said, please tell us whether you agree or disagree with the following statements, or if you are unsure. And the question basically said, vote by mail is likely to increase voter fraud. All right. Look at how across the board this is. Look at it. This is, by the way, a solid majority, nearing 60%. And Democrats were less likely to either say they strongly agree or they agree, but many of them still agreed. And independents were firmly, or I would say, much stronger correlation between Republican and independent sentiment than there is independent and Democrat sentiment. All right. The Peach State Battleground Poll, recently conducted by Big Data Poll from December 4th to December 11th, finds a solid majority, 56.8%, agree vote by mail is at least somewhat likely to increase fraud, including 31.4% who strongly agree, while Republicans, 79%, and independent others, 50.2%, are more likely to either strongly agree or agree that vote by mail increases fraud. More than 1 in 4 Democrats, 26.3%, still believe that as well. A quarter of the Democratic Party in the state of Georgia knows what a con this is. More than 4 in 10 think election officials in Georgia and elsewhere looked the other way and counted ballots with mismatched signatures. All right. Which brings us to some of the more details of the Georgia poll, which we never got to go over. For this new round, we're not asking every single question again. Is almost really no point. Looks like I got to log in. So it does that. And I'm glad it does. People, trying to hack into stuff all the time. But yeah, basically, some of these questions, whether or not they think that mismatched signatures is kind of a running argument. So we're leaving some of that. But whether or not people support photo ID or verification, signature verification, what's the point, right? So there really is there just isn't. Hold on, let me throw up the first crosstab here. I mean, we could briefly go over this, but this is going to be old. Let's go over it just to tell you what I see differently. All right. Does look like Purdue is closing the gap a little bit. All right. And that is because if you really look, the number of undecided people is disproportionately favors, like the group of undecideds definitely disproportionately favor Republicans. The reason why Democrats had an edge in the first round of polling was because they were much more likely to say they're absolutely certain to vote, they're going to vote, and they're decided about voting. I know I'm going to vote, and I know who I'm going to vote for. Sometimes that could just skew a poll, and we could look at likelihood, and I can show you. But Purdue, 44.5 or 45, to Ossoff, 47, +2, but a lot undecided. Those people are really not undecided, and we're seeing that now. So the lion's share is going to Purdue. It's going to be a very close race. There's over now 1.6 million absentee ballot requests. And this is another scam. They're not requests that are somebody physically made, guys. Okay? A lot of people are automatically getting ballots. And they're seriously, look, I'm not kidding when I tell you that there could be more votes this time. I am not kidding. I'm not joking. There is a large share of voters who said they did not vote in November, but they're going to vote now. And who do you think they benefit? How long do you think they lived in the state of Georgia? I mean, it's just it's mayhem and pandemonium. Throw them a ballot. If they don't fill it out, don't worry. Somebody will. Nobody's matching the signatures anyway. All right, so you could see Purdue is down across the board with gender here. I mean, it's just not good enough. This is a crappy performance. He's down almost with every age group. Once you get to 45 and above, Purdue takes over. He's winning whites pretty solidly. All right, he's doing pretty damn well with Hispanics, actually. But he's getting crushed with blacks, which Donald Trump did not. and still managed to somehow lose the state. It's just crazy. Whatever. I digress. All right. And about 30% of Asians. That's going to be the Republican problem moving forward. All right. Asians are not Asians like they were in the 90s. They're getting far more, what's the word I'm looking for? China friendly. And there's no other way to put it. They're not the same groups who are running away from the CCP like we saw the waves of in the 90s. That's not what we're getting. We're getting people who are very left wing. I mean, they identify as liberal. They make a lot of money. They're educated. The life's good for them. All right. Let's see. Vote history, never voted. Here, look at the likelihood here, and you'll see why this was a problem. So among those who were certain to vote, they were basically tied at 48, 47. Ossoff had 47.7% of his vote who said they were certain to vote. Purdue had 47.1%. Likely to vote, Ossoff took a nice little leap out there, almost 20 points, 17 points. And then unlikely to vote was Purdue's strongest. I mean, that's not good. That's simply not good. Same thing, by the way, with Loeffler. We'll look at her real quick. All right, Loeffler had unlikely, a little bit better off there, but she was just getting crushed in likely to vote. And certainty, actually, she was down a little bit more than Raphael Warniak. There were more undecided people in that race, and that is a tell. There's also a tell when you look at, let's go back to the Purdue. This is a response bias, and this is evidence that people are telling us, shut up, we don't want to talk to you anymore, we hate you. You look like the Mike Avenatti lawyer to us. That's the kind of, that's how we view you as a pollster, and we don't want to talk to you. How do we know that? The very Republican coast and south region of the state. Do you really think David Perdue is only ahead by 1 point there? No. Those are just the people who chose to talk to us. And we got enough responses, but it got packed with undecideds. These are like almost all Republicans. They're done. And moving on, we're going to have to talk about whether polling is like broken. Or they have screwed us so bad that they broke it for even good pollsters. Because the participation level it's atrocious. It's atrocious. All right, let's go back to all and look at some of these election integrity issues, okay? Election deadlines, bans on, okay, here we go. Requiring all voters to provide photo identification to cast a ballot. We did this a little bit different. Yes, no, support, oppose. We said strongly support, oppose, or strongly oppose. Folks, not even 10% in the state of Georgia oppose photo identification. Who are these people? All right. It's like the white liberal, because they make up so much more of the electorate. It's true that there are other percentages. No Asians in this entire poll said they strongly oppose it. Almost none. Hispanics are actually much more likely than Black African-American voters to say they oppose it. African Americans strongly support it. It's not even close. Whites support it, yes, higher and with more intensity, because 70% strongly support it. 17.6 support it. But if you combine black voters who either strongly or support, just flat support, it's over 7 and 10. Who do these people in the media represent? Who do they represent? It's not the actual voter. Signature verification. And I'm blowing through some of this because I got some stuff I want to talk about. All right. Strongly support, 53%. Support, 28.1%. It blows my mind when we find figures like this. And then you listen to the media drum on like you're nuts if you think that you should match signatures or something. 10 years ago, the greatest cheerleader for signature verification was Barack Obama. Bans on ballot harvesting. This is a little lower, and I'm going to tell you why. Look at unsure, 15.7%. There are a lot of people who really just don't understand what we were talking about. All right? And we did read it out to them. Bans on ballot harvesting, or the practice of allowing non-government third parties to collect and deliver ballots not belonging to them. So even among people who really didn't know, many of them still said, of course I support it, because it just makes sense. Why the hell would anybody else be touching your ballot? A little pent up here, so trying to roll with this, but a little pent up. All right, election day deadlines for officials to report the total number of votes. This is so crucial, and it gets no media coverage. We don't talk about it when we talk about voter ID, right? We talk about signature verification now. We do not talk about this, and it is just as crucial, if not more. Because if you don't know how many ballots a precinct or a county has by a certain time, then there will always be suspicion surrounding late arriving ballots. We knew that in Florida. We put deadlines in place. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How many absentee ballots do you have? Not how many are for Biden or for Trump. How many do you have? Don't tell us at 11:30 you found 35,000 more in someone's trunk. How many do you have right now? And why is this important? In Pennsylvania, on Election Day, the state of Pennsylvania said there were 2.4 million statewide. Statewide. And it took 2 weeks to gather up that number. Of course, you would expect some to trickle in, maybe over the course of the day. But there has to be a deadline, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How many ballots do you have? If you can't answer that question, then there's always going to be suspicion around the ballots that arrived 48 hours later, 72 hours later, because Trump had a lead in Pennsylvania for several days. And when those ballots came in, what they were telling us is that 17% came in one day. And what, 17% out of what? The total vote that took 2 weeks to amass. That's crazy. Is it possible? Whatever. I'll concede it's possible. Which one's more plausible? And if there were deadlines, it wouldn't be a question. We wouldn't even have a question. Nobody would be able to cry or whine when they lose, because we could say, all right, we knew this many ballots were, this is how they broke. Candidate A or candidate B lost. The observance of poll workers. Other common sense. Almost 80%. Of course, people should be able to watch the polls and watch how they count. Conduct oversight. Why the hell would anyone oppose that? Well, they'd oppose it because they're up to something.
Because 4 a.m. is a better time.
And I even made that little is it legit to count votes in the middle of the night? And I did that on purpose. And then I asked it slightly 2 different ways, along with that one too. All right, vote by mail is at least somewhat likely to increase fraud. We went over this question with the article before, but look at it. 31+% strongly agree with that statement. Over another quarter agree. Only about 35% are, I'm not going to say it, but drinking the Kool-Aid. Verification procedures. Do you think that verification procedures should be followed when counting votes? Yes, 60% almost. Strongly agree. And agree almost 29%. Look, if you think that they verified those ballots, then you're nuts. And this was a key to this, Laura. So if you walked into a voting booth in Georgia and you wanted to vote on election day or in person early, you needed a license.
Shocker.
Or an official voter registration ID. What? Crazy, I know. But if you voted by mail, you did not. You did not. All right? So that's it. And I know people will probably want to talk about the audit. That audit is just sham. It's a sham. You ever ask a criminal to investigate themselves? It's just nuts, who the hell do they think they're fooling? All right, so which method of voting would you most prefer or believe to have the most election integrity? This is why Sidney Powell's machine thing is going to be a tough sell with the general public, because for the most part, most people understand in the United States we have a mixed method where we use a combination of paper ballots and machine voting. 45% said that they had the most confidence in machine voting. Paper ballots was number one, but not by much. And internet voting is not trusted in the least. So we have actually come up with a number of ideas for very secure internet voting. And it looks like we'd have a very long way to go to convince the public that that is okay. And I understand the fear and trepidation, putting your vote out there on the internet. I get it. Could it be hacked? Probably a lot easier than a Dominion voting machine. That's what people would think. But when we had a proxy votes, a lot more secure than this. I mean, the same way the government, has vets or Department of Defense officials sign in. It's not easy to break into. All right. But anyway, I digress. The point is, it would take a lot to convince people of that, because the least preferred method of voting is internet voting by far. We asked this 2 different ways. 56% chose internet voting. Electronic voting machines was actually just about 5 points behind paper ballots. So it's close. It is close. By the way, this is just Georgia only. And then again, like I read to you before we went over this, I mean, more than 4 in 10 voters in Georgia. That number is rising, by the way. When we first asked, more than 4 in 10 said that they absolutely counted mismatched signatures. So it's not good.
No bueno.
This is not good. And I mean intentionally. They looked the other way. The question was worded honestly. Do you think 2020 election officials in Georgia and elsewhere only counted mail-in ballots with carefully matched signatures, or did they look the other way and count ballots with mismatched signatures? It's no good, guys. It's no good. That is not good at all. All right, so that's that. Going back to the Senate race here, this is what's going on. Warniak is starting to take a hit. He's a little bit below 45% now. I don't really believe that. I think he's probably around like 47%. But I think that some of these, these stories are really starting to hurt him. And it's the South. And if you're not a Southerner or you haven't lived in the South, you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. But people in the South are not going to outright want to tell you, you know what, I'm not down with this guy. This is like like with Gillum. They knew it was a radical, but they didn't really want to tell you. And then, of course, there was all of this question surrounding his behavior with the FBI. But they're just not, I don't know. They're like, what's the word I'm looking for, Laura? Help me out here.
I got words, but you don't want to.
Yeah, Warnock, whatever. I don't even care if I say his name correctly, to be honest. The bottom line is, I would not be surprised if Barnes turns out to be right and Loeffler does better than David Perdue, especially considering, what's the word? David Perdue should have done more as the senior senator of Georgia to fight because what is happening. Because I always tell you guys, it's the way it is with the left. It's a slippery slope. They were so full of crap. They have wanted fraud-ridden mail-in voting, mass mail-in voting for many, 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 many years. They could never get it because they couldn't get it through the legislatures. They couldn't pass it at the ballot box. Let me put it like that. They took over a state legislature and did something like that. They'd get creamed the next cycle, and they knew it. So that because they didn't really have the numbers to do it yet. They have wanted this for many years. They were never just going to use COVID as a predicate and then just put things back to normal. That was never going to happen.
Nope.
And the stupid idiots like David Perdue and the rest of the Republican establishment, they just got completely derailed. They got outsmarted, outmaneuvered. Mitch McConnell is a stupid person. Now it's just time for Rich to trash everybody. All right? Mitch, you're dumb. You're a dumb guy. The people you have working for you are stupid. And you're not very smart. You're not good at what you do.
Yes,
and you're
yes,
going to
you
destroy
should
this
have
party.
bent over.
And it'll be on you. Yeah, you're good at bending over, Mitch. That's about it.
Bend over, artist.
Yeah, that's really all you can do. I mean, to acknowledge when you have 2 runoffs you're down in.
Mm-hmm.
To acknowledge after the Electoral College cast their votes, even though for the first time since 1877, both candidates had enough electors there, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
1877! I checked. Congress still has the power to do this if they wanted to. They don't have to certify those electors. Mo Brooks is absolutely going to raise the challenge. Rand Paul looks like he's going to give him, you need someone in the upper chamber to second it. And we're going to talk more about this with Barnes later. You have elections going on. And by the way, we did talk about this on the last one.
Mm-hmm.
What is the downside of mounting a challenge? There is no downside. Democrats mounted one in 2016, even though they damn well knew they didn't have the numbers. Here, Republicans could make a problem if they had the balls that Democrats have. Are we allowed to say that on YouTube?
I
don't know.
So. Or cojones.
Well, let's just, let's call it cojones. Let's clean it up here. This is a family show, okay?
Yes.
Bottom line is they would do this, Laura. In fact, if Democrats had control of the state legislatures of within the states in question, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, like Republicans do, Arizona, Donald Trump would never be president. They would have went to town with how Russia stole the election, offered no proof, but the media just would have went along with it anyway, and they would have said, you know what, this election's just been compromised. We can't have a foreign dictator choose our presidents, and that is the song they would have sang to you. And believe me, they would have done it. It's not even a question.
On repeat.
It's not even a question. And Hillary Clinton would have been president for the last 4 years.
They
There
don't
is
think she is.
no question. What do Republican base voters have? They have Mitch McConnell. Folding like, as my 11-year-old son would say. That guy folded like an omelet. That's you, Mitch. You're pathetic. With 2 runoffs. Look at shall we go back to the central region of the state again? Let's shall. It's still there.
Well, Mitch rhymes.
This
with
is why.
not rich.
This is why they're down, Laura. Here's this region.
Outside.
This is why they're down. These are the voters who are like, we hate you. Don't talk to us anymore. You're all a bunch of traitors, and we don't know what we're going to do. Just leave us alone, but don't ask me for any money. I don't even know if I'm voting. Kiss my butt.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the voters that you need to bring back to the fold. These margins right here, Loeffler is a little bit behind Trump, but Purdue is pretty close to Trump in central Georgia. Pretty darn close. And Republicans tend to poll pretty bad. They tend to underpoll in areas like this. All right. And it always looks like they're doing 55-35. And it'll really turn out to be more like 63. You know what I mean? They always do because it's just the nature of their constituencies. They don't like to talk like Democrats like to talk. Boy, Democrats want to talk.
Oh.
They want to tell you their life story. They want to tell you how much more virtuous they are.
They want to tell you grandpa's story.
They want to tell you everybody's story. Republicans don't. And they really just don't. They don't care whether or not you value their opinion. And they don't care whether or not you need their opinion. So we could really appeal to their civic duty. Like, this would be a big help. It used to be where that worked still.
But I think there's
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, all right, I guess. How long is this going to take? Let's go. Now they're just like, we don't give a damn. And we could feel that leading up to the 2020 vote in November. It just became really clear to us that some Republican voters, Trump independents, Trump Republicans, were basically saying, you know what? I'm not telling you. You'll find out November 4th how this went. And there was like this brewing under the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Like you knew the man was going to get the largest increase in votes for any incumbent ever in history. Yet somehow Joe Biden got more.
Mm-hmm.
Every indicator, predictive indicator that has never been wrong, every single one of them were not only wrong for the first time, they were wrong. All of them were wrong for the first time. That's just nuts, Laura. I don't believe in coinkydinks like that. I just don't. Anyway, going back to how dumb Mitch McConnell is. This is the area of the state, Mitch, where you can win. You're never going to win here, Mitch. Okay? It's over in here. Not unless there's a dramatic change. You need these two where there are more people than enough. You need them to go overwhelmingly for your party. Not 55-35. 65. All right? And it is true that look at how many say they're. This is why I said before, the undecided vote was really much better for Republicans.
Yeah.
Highest undecided vote outside of the Atlanta metro area is the Central and the North. Two very Republican-friendly areas. All right?
Yeah,
but this is not good enough.
Republican isn't Republican, and they're going to be.
It's not. I know it, and they're in for a rude awakening. This doesn't feel good to me, guys. All right, this is not the science aspect of this. This is really like the art aspect of this. What I'm telling you is, I feel like this isn't going to end well for the Republican Party.
If they don't.
After they had a man come in and win more votes than any Republican presidential candidate ever, more non-white votes since Richard Nixon. All right. I mean, this is almost a party suicide. It really is. It's almost a party suicide. All right. All right. Let's take a quick 30-second break, guys, so I can get some water because I burned through the first segment. And don't forget, 2 o'clock. Come back for What Are the Odds? God almighty, that thing. Come back for What Are the Odds at 2 o'clock with Barnes and Barris, and we will discuss a lot more in detail about cases, what went on, what the process is that Mo Brooks and others are trying to implement, and just all along the news. We're also going to talk pardons, Snowden, Assange, all right, and I'll even give you some insight into what I have heard myself, all right. But again, let me take that 30-second break. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already, at @peoples_pundit. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. If you're a Facebook user, we greatly appreciate you moseying on over to Facebook and hitting that like button. We'll be back in 30 seconds. All right, and we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at @peoples_pundit. Laura doesn't even know, so I'm going to tell Laura right now. This keeps happening. Every time I sign into Twitter, it says that they've limited the actions I'm able to perform and that I need to go through the process to undo it, which I've done now multiple times in multiple days.
Jack Dorsey is a punk.
Oh boy, there it is. She's so mad. They won't even respond to PPD or to Laura's account. They just keep sending the same nonsense. We'll add this to the file. Well, right? Or something like that. We'll add, because we finally got them to respond to PPD. They gave no explanation. And with Laura was like, you talking about this account? This is not my account. I have one and only account. They never responded. And every time she goes, hey guys, you gonna answer? They just, we'll add this to your prior complaint. That's it.
I'll give you a complaint. Let me see you in person, Jack Dorsey. Just saying.
And I'm telling you, it begins. It will get ugly for people who don't agree or toe the line, or present a threat to the frauds like the Nates and the other election riggers. Look, I think really Tucker put it best. Outside of all the changes, which were absolutely on purpose, we've been over them ad nauseum now. Outside of all those changes, there was more to rigging the election than just election fraud. The election was completely rigged in the media. The election was completely rigged on social media. Mark Zuckerberg funded efforts to get those changes in place. The hell does he have to do with it? That was the job of the legislature. Yet he used his money and he used his power to force basically top and lower level executive actions that circumvented the power of the legislature. All of this crap is unconstitutional. I will say this because we haven't spoken since the Supreme Court. Cowards. Cowards. The President of the United States doesn't have standing. Is this a freaking joke?
I can't no more.
Is this a joke? Well, look at what they did in Georgia yesterday. And we're going to talk more about this with Robert. They didn't have standing after the election, right? That's what the judges said. It's after the election. In the beginning, they said that you can't sue before because you don't have standing and that there's nothing has been committed yet. So nobody has been harmed in any way before the event. That is what all of these hack on both sides. Robert was so right about the Federalist Society, by the way. How far did it get Trump and Republicans to get these groups of neocon quasi-conservatives to tell you what judges you should and should not nominate for the federal bench? These are Republican judges in the sense that they rule for big business all the time against regulations. Yeah, they're regulation judges. That's what they are. They're like Munn v. Illinois judges, going back to whether or not you can slap a direct, you can slap a direct tax on somebody. Munn v. Illinois dealt with the prices of grain, storage and the power to regulate the economy. That's about as conservative as they get. That's it. The rest of it, they're just cowards. And Roberts is a fool. Roberts is probably going to go down as the judge who destroyed the institution. The Chief Justice who destroyed the credibility of the institution. Because for the most part, if you poll governments, the Supreme Court was among the most trusted. They're in the dookie now too, with the rest of them. Little funny tip. Going over, did you guys see my Twitter feed? I am not kidding when I tell you. This is how... The caliber of the people who count votes in this country is not exactly grade A beef, okay? We're not talking about highly intellectual people, all right? We're not talking about incredible integrity, people of integrity and intellect.
They don't know those words.
Nimbers gotta, G-O-T-T-A, match. Nimbers gotta match. That was his excuse for throwing out that ballot. Nimbers gotta match. Oh my God. And we can't get a straight answer for what administrative cancellation means. So, according to the Georgia Secretary of State, if I want to find out why individual ballots, and let's hear, do I still have numbers up here? Let me pull one up. Okay, let me pull up a small one so it doesn't crash like the last time I tried to do it. All right. If I want to find out why in Abbott County, Georgia, for instance, a certain ballot, and it's loading, it's taking its time, but it's loading, a certain ballot was not counted. And it was canceled it was administratively canceled. There is no list of reasons that you could say, all right, it's probably because of this, or it was because of that. Apparently, this is a very obscure code that they could enter that could look like if they just don't like how you voted, they can cancel it out. It's very serious. So in the status reason, let me go through a couple of them just so people understand how many were not rejected. Okay. Mailed ballots surrendered to vote in person. That is a person who walked line 2, folks. Line 2. That is a person who walked in and their ballot was supposedly already cast. And they said, no, I didn't turn it in and I want to vote here. Voter turned in ballot at the polls. That's common. That happened. I used to do that all the time. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person.
What?
Voter turned in ballot at the polls. Ballot was undelivered. All right. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. This is more than normal. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. 3 mail ballots were undelivered. Nimbers got a match. That was Abbott County. All right. That's why I had it in front of me. In other words, they rejected the vote of, and let's see, I don't know if I want to throw somebody's name out there, but should I? Well, let me just say this. Jesse. All right, Jesse. All right. Insurrency. You better check and make sure your vote counted. I wonder who you voted for, Jesse. Maybe I'll call you, actually, Jesse, and we'll find out who you because it looks like all these like really suspicious things tend, when you get a hold of people, they tend to all just fall in one direction. I didn't like that ballot. Whoosh, canceled for administrative calls.
And I do have the list of the people who asked us to check, and we will check that.
Okay. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. These are comment areas where if there's a problem with the ballot, this is where it's listed. I am now through about 1,000 records. Okay. And you can clearly see that there is not a single challenge yet. Not a single challenge yet. All right. And nothing but people walking into the voting stations and finding that their ballot was already somehow in the mail. All right. And we have actually spoken to people. So we do know that these are people who, they did not request the ballot. They did not. Anyway, here we go. 530 administrative cancellation. Followed by mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. Mail ballots surrendered to vote in person. You guys get the hint, right? I could keep going and going. I'm not going to find one where it says the signature did not match. Not in this file. I won't. Reissued a combined ballot. That's funny because in Arizona, that turned out to be problematic, to say the least. Problematic. There's a lot of construction in here. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I can hear it. I think I can hear it folding back to me. It's pissing me off a little bit, but there's nothing I can do about it. Right? Okay. And a bunch of ballots undelivered, but not a single challenge. Not a challenge yet. And I'm telling you, there's no challenges. There are no challenges. So even if you go to Fulton County, where this, oh wow, I almost said a bad word. This tool was supposed to be appointed because Fulton County had so many problems. Understand that Fulton County was forced to have a babysitter because they were so bad in the primary and even in 2018. And these fake fact checkers at Reuters and elsewhere, Trump tweets that it was almost, in all caps, almost zero, the rejection rate in Georgia. And they say false, it was 0.14. That's almost zero, you idiots. That's almost zero. And it's actually worse when you're just looking at the signatures, whether it was 4 signatures. But the fact of the matter is, they're using the definitions of what is a rejected ballot and for what reason to try to skew it away. And who did they take? Who did they go to fact check Trump? The Secretary of State. The fact remains that 4 years ago in Gwinnett County, the rejection rate was 12%. 4 years later, they did a much better job, and it was still 7%. In DeKalb County, 5 and 6%. This time, almost nothing. So we're going to vastly expand vote by mail, increasing the incident rate. There is no argument where you could expand the number and yet somehow the rejection rate goes down because you're adding more chance of incident. I know not everybody is a statistical person, so it's like hard for me to explain, but the more ballots you have, the more like, especially when you do this on such short notice. You know what I mean? Like we rapidly changed the electoral process in such short notice. We're supposed to believe that they processed all these ballots better, that voters didn't make more mistakes their first time ago. I have seen entire counties throw out 100% of their absentee ballots. 100%.
because instruction was given wrong and they had to toss it. It was Hidalgo County, Texas 4 years ago. Threw out every single one of their ballots. Every single one. I mean, this is nuts. Nuts. This is an insult to thinking people everywhere. If you increase the number of instances, then you're obviously going to increase the number of total rejected ballots. Stop it. Just stop it. Administrative cancellation. Ballot was undelivered. Ballot returned. Really? Here we go. Deceased. Okay? You got to give credit where credit's due. In Abbott County, they caught this one. Okay? They did. And they did catch some, basically, but they really didn't. I'm not saying they weren't looking. Some counties did better than others. Let me put it that way. All right? And they caught this one. But, however, for the absentee ballot status, okay, column S is entitled application status. And then you have the ballot status. My man's got an R, which means received, which proves without a doubt what I was telling you all those months was 100%, of course, 100% true. That these ballots were going to go out whether or not voters were active or not, whether or not they were eligible or not. Everybody gets a ballot. And let me get his name. I'm going to get his freaking name. I'm sorry, but it's really the only way to do this. Okay? It's the only way, because you can say you can say dead voters were getting ballots all you want, but until you actually say the name, like we've been saying lately. Hildreth Stone, Piney Bluff Road, Baxley, Georgia. Dead.
Gone.
Dead. How did she receive a ballot?
The Lazarus effect.
She should never have received a ballot. In prior elections, she would not have received a ballot. Because in prior elections, ballots must be requested and inactive voters must update their info. Even the dead, I said. Change of address flags and other inactive voters will receive ballots. Oh, that's crazy. PolitiFact. That's crazy. It doesn't make sense to have a change of address flag. These people lie to you, and they lie to you on purpose.
With a smile.
PolitiHack lies to you on purpose. How did she get the freaking ballot? Who requested the ballot on her behalf? Since they said, no, it will absolutely have to be requested. You have to do it just like last time, just like every other time. So they're lying either way, Laura. Either they sent her a ballot automatically or somebody requested her ballot. And in fact, in Michigan, that is what we are seeing. People were requesting these ballots. Some of the ones were going out. And what we found is some of them are just wise guys who must have hated Trump so much. You know, they wanted to stop that Nazi. So they requested the ballot for the person who hasn't lived at their address for 20 years, but nevertheless got the damn ballot anyway. All right? Because that's what the point of all of these changes were. Macomb County, Michigan. Everyone gets a ballot. In prior years, ballots must be requested. They told us that wasn't going to happen. I just read to you a name off. That is from the Secretary of State's own records. Then 2, no verification procedures. Now, of course, they got this better in some areas, and they struck out in others. They struck out in Ohio. They struck out in Florida. They struck out in Iowa. They won big in Nevada. They won in Pennsylvania. They won half of what they wanted in Wisconsin. But what we're finding anyway is that even where they lost, they just did it anyway. Because they just felt like it. They just felt like it. Huh?
Even where they won.
Even when they lost in court.
Oh, lost.
They just did it anyway, Laura. We know damn well they didn't match these signatures, Laura. You know it and I know it. All right? Because if they did match the signatures, then they would have caught Mary in Genesee County. Right? They would have caught what's her name we were just looking at in DeKalb County. All right. And it's just, there's no other explanation. There's no other way. One of the biggest parts of this scam, guys, was this. And even when you hear the reports in Georgia, already 1.6 million have been requested. Even when you hear that, understand they're lying to you. 1.6 million people did not request a ballot. Many of them are getting them anyway. They're just getting them. We just spoke to somebody the other day. He has 4. He was afraid to go public. I was like, dude, just let me blast him out on Twitter. Can we just talk about you on Twitter? He's afraid to do it. But it's legit. He got 4 ballot requests.
But that's the thing. We're afraid now.
Yeah.
Like,
Look, you guys you got a man up. You got a woman up. You can't be afraid. Don't let them smell blood, man. Don't let them smell fear. Don't let them, because now is not the time. And then, so verification procedures number 2, Democrats did not want signature match or other verification standards often required by state law. In fact, were required. And in Georgia, actually, a little bit different. But Georgia is textbook Bush v. Gore unconstitutional. You cannot treat all voters differently. You can't request. And by the way, signature verification, while we're at it, how many people want verification procedures applied equally? About 90%.
Even
Look at this.
Democrats?
Even Democrats.
But their representatives say no, they don't.
I know.
Oh.
I know. Let's look at party. Among party, 55% of Democrats strongly agreed with the following statement. Verification procedures should be applied to all voters equally. Mail-in, in-person, election day.
No.
Another 35% agreed. So taken all together, 90% of Democrats in the state of Georgia did not agree. And they'll never know that because the media is such a bunch of corrupt, disgusting, scumbag liars who are not telling the truth about anything. They don't tell the truth about anything anymore. Nothing is the truth, Laura. Nothing. And then look at independents, much actually closer, closer in number to how Democrats feel, but Republicans are 76% strongly agree, and 61.4% of independents strongly agree with that. Another 17.2% of Republicans do, 35%, like I said, of Democrats, and 24.3%. We do this to gauge intensity, okay? And then where is signature verification? Again, nearly 8 in 10 Democrats, roughly 8 in 10 Democrats, either strongly support or support signature verification or the matching of voter signatures to driver's license or official voter ID card. And actually, voter ID is the shtick one, right? That's the one where everybody always goes nuts. Almost 80% of Democrats in the state of Georgia either strongly support 46.8 or support 31.4. This is enormous majorities. This is like, what the hell are we arguing about? Only this 2 point, you see this 2.7 that strongly opposes? These are white Democrats. White, educated, liberal Democrats. They represent nobody. This is the media right here. This is Anderson Cooper, okay? That's who that is. The Georgia version. I mean, it's such a joke. What are we arguing about? We can't even find consensus on that. Holy moly. Holy moly. Listen, I thought I caught a super chat in my eye. Was that a question or was it just
No, actually, it was a really nice comment.
Can I put it up? Does she mind?
Yeah, okay. Christine.
Thank you, Christine. I very much appreciate that. I hope you join us at 2 p.m. Barnes and I will be talking a lot more about the legal aspect of stuff. And I hope you join us there as well. I appreciate all the kind words. I got one like that on Parler too, which was just like a real quick message. That was just really nice. I read all your stuff, guys, even if I don't get a chance to respond. It's getting very hard, but I'm doing it because I believe it's important. I always did before. I don't really know what the difference is when you have 40,000 followers on Twitter or when you have a quarter million or whatever it is. Yeah, you should be doing it. So I do my best to do it. The president of the United States can read his mail. I don't understand how it is that some of these like other people in my industry, they don't read messages. Like, who the hell do you think you are, man? Right? I mean, Melania reads every letter. Or staff does, but most of the time. And then George Bush used to read everything.
Yeah, I just don't trust other people though to read my stuff.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I feel like they'll filter out.
Yeah, that's why I don't trust anyone. Well, except for you.
Well, duh.
To read it either. I wouldn't trust anybody either. All right, so very important. Let's just recap. Everybody gets a ballot, and of course, I just proved to you they in fact did. Okay. No verification procedures because you want all this stuff swimming out there. You want all these potential ballots that can be stuffed or rung up or stuffed, whichever state you live in, whichever terminology you prefer. All right. Fudged. And you can't have anybody check whether or not, Sally in Kent County, Michigan, fudged a ballot that she got that was for somebody who died in Indiana like 15 years ago, but lived at her address 20 years ago. It's crazy. You would be shocked how many people actually died in another state, yet are still on the voter rolls and got an absentee ballot and returned it. Ballot harvesting was number 3. And in fact, in the end, what they did, we thought that they just really got the golden goose in Nevada. Because not only did they get it in Clark County, they made the taxpayers pay for it. I'm not kidding. But even in areas where they lost and they were not able to get it like on the books, it's okay. They were still doing it. The United States Postal Service acted as the Democratic Party's personal ballot harvesting operation for the November 3rd, 2020 U.S. presidential election. The rest was done by activists. Like that schmuck on Twitter who was doing it in Georgia and recruiting people to help him after the election. We're not done yet, guys. We have a lot of ballots to fix. That is illegal in the state of Georgia. I pointed out, Twitter takes my tweet down. This is where we're at now. Very, very concerning times we are living in, folks. Very concerning times.
It's beyond concerning.
It's really Trump tweeted something the other day that was like demonstrably true. And sometimes he says things that, like, of course they are in doubt or dispute or whatever. But something the other day he tweeted was demonstrably true. But they have certain and look, he goes out and he thanks these people. Notice he left out. He said, "Thank you to the great men and women of FedEx and UPS for driving through the storms this week to deliver millions of doses of the vaccine across the country." 2 great American companies. USPS, I don't know what they have in it, but I will say I don't know if they have a role. The Postal Service, but he ain't going to praise them. Notice again, Democrats projected onto him and Republicans what they said, what they in fact ended up doing. So Democrats always do that. They projected onto Trump and Republicans that he was going to use the Postal Service to commit election fraud. Laura, you nailed it again. She was like, you better watch out. If they're accusing him of doing that, they're going to do something with the Postal Service. And again, once again, it was absolutely true. Oh, looks like Navarro released a 36-page report alleging voter fraud, more than sufficient to swing the victory to Trump. Oh, that graphic looks familiar. I'll just tell you guys right now, I gave them these numbers. Someone's going to find out anyway. Yep, those are those. Well, what I provided to them was a detailed timeline of how votes changed proportionate to what was reported in and how much we were told they had left. So understand, guys, we got on election day and throughout the day the numbers of absentee ballots that not just statewide, counties allegedly had. They did not remain consistent over the course of 48 hours. Let me put it that way. So I give them a timeline to show them there are states, because this is another thing people need to understand. We're acting as if this last minute absentee ballot, which was the totality of absentee ballots, all went for Biden like that. And that's all the absentee ballot voting there was. And that's not true. In many of these states, we actually did get absentee ballot votes first. And we knew demographically and by region how they were breaking. And they were not breaking big enough for Joe Biden. What flipped those states was a late arriving chunk that went for him at a rate that the prior batches did not. And it wasn't explained by geography. It was not explained by demographics. We had chunks. And that's why they couldn't do it in Florida. They couldn't do it in Ohio. They even couldn't do it in North Carolina because the Republican Party in North Carolina, they understood what was going on. And they were like, no way. I challenge that signature. I challenge that signature. They did their damn job. They did their damn job, which is why the Democrat running for the Supreme Court was left with nothing but taking challenges to courts, asking the courts to re-include ballots that were previously rejected. That's all they had left.
Wait, super chat.
Incredible. Just incredible.
How long do you think the election's been like this? Why did Hillary not feel successful? You think?
That's a great question. That really is a great question. And the answer to that is everything that we just went over. The bullet point one.
They didn't hear my question.
Oh, they didn't hear it? Okay, so how long do you think things have been like this, and why couldn't Hillary do the same thing? That's a fantastic question. You know, just real quick, go through it. This time things were different. First of all, they had months to do this. And in fact, our investigations tell us these ballots have been submitted going back. Let's see when that ballot, that last dead person I was just reading to you, that ballot was submitted in September 24th. All right. It's the same way in Michigan. It's the same way everywhere else that we found. They were at it for months because they had months to be at it. They're not allowed. That has not been the case in prior elections. Okay. They also were able to extend the integrity deadlines, which overwhelmingly voters support, which is it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just to use an example. How many absentee ballots do you have? You are not allowed to pretend like you don't know, and maybe, I don't know, maybe 40, 50,000 more tomorrow. No, that's not how it works. And also, again, everyone got a ballot this time in the areas in question. At least the goal was to push out as many ballots to get them as readily available in a manner and in the sheer number of them, we have never seen anything like this before. And then two, they still had verification procedures that they had to follow, even if they didn't, which Laura knows, I know, in Florida with Broward County, they counted signatures that didn't match all the time, and we would fight it all the time. But the fact of the matter is, they didn't have this many ballots floating around to make it easy for them to do that, to have such a big impact. And number three, the harvesting of those. So the point is, get a pool of fraud out as big as possible for potential fraud, take away the verification procedures to make it very easy for people to do it, and then have some mechanism or multiple, which they did, multiple mechanisms of retrieving those ballots and making sure they got back, whether that had been a drop box ballot. And that's the drop box in Georgia was the way they got around ballot harvesting. So it appears to be the same thing in Delaware and Pennsylvania and other areas. And I know it's just, we investigate when we hear something. We didn't just target these battleground states. So if somebody came to us and said, look, I don't know why, but my vote didn't count. I voted along with these people. I mean, then we would look at it. And ironically, we just found stuff everywhere because they made that so easy. That was a great question, because that's why I spent the 2 months leading up to the election talking about this, that this would not be like prior elections. They have more time to do it. the potential is going to be, or the potential pool is going to be vastly expanded. It's not going to be like normal years where you could stuff a couple thousand ballots, how long has it been like this? I have told this to Tucker, and I'll tell this to you. There is always election fraud. There is always voter fraud. That was never the question this time. The media line that there is just a load of crap. The only question ever was whether or not it was enough to change the outcome, or whether or not it impacted the outcome in one or more states, key states. And at this point, I'd have to say, yeah, it did. I really do believe that. And I don't have time or the money to go through every single ballot, but I'm using likelihood. If I pull 100,000 voters off the list in Michigan of people that are either dead, suspected to be dead, or change of address flags, and we get thousands of them, and I'm talking 5-digit thousands, then that tells me, since I randomly drew 100,000, and there's way more than that in Michigan, it's millions, over 1.4 million. And I randomly drew 100,000 and was able to retrieve 5-digit thousand suspicious records, of which 95.8% were confirmed. Then that tells me that the fraud is systemic. It's real, it's bad, it's systemic.
But do you think they really thought Trump could win against Hillary? I don't think they took him seriously.
No, that's the thing too. They didn't look. There were indictments in Pennsylvania through that covered that election cycle. They only stuffed a little bit in Philadelphia. They did not commit the large amount of fraud, that they have been known to do. Let's be real. They have been known to commit widespread fraud. They didn't have the time. They didn't think Hillary was going to lose. This time around, they were terrified. They were. So they really tried to give themselves every advantage, every handicap. I still think, though, it took longer than they expected. Not because Hawkfish or whatever the loser Bloomberg thing is. They did say it will appear that Trump has a massive lead. But Laura, you heard everybody on election night. The Biden campaign, their targets were smashed. I'm talking about Trump smashed their targets for defeat. And it was bad. Mm-hmm. They did not expect Donald Trump to get that many votes. They just didn't. I mean, they thought they were not going to recover. And Allegheny and Philadelphia called the Biden campaign. Officials, by the way, the Attorney General was saying, don't worry, we got enough votes for you out here. That is not the role of an Attorney General. Anyway, moving on. It's 1:18. There was something else I wanted to say before we left here.
I got questions.
You got a question?
Yeah, I got a few. Jim wants to know, if there was fraud in New England, does the GOP have a future in places like Connecticut, Maine, Minnesota, and Illinois?
That's a great question, Jim. And I really think that, and by the way, I guess it was Sergeant Hody that asked that last one. That was a really good question, too. I do think that the Republican Party is basically inept at what they need to do to survive. So their ability to look at an electoral map and from demographically say, here are our opportunities. I think they're very foolish and they don't understand the ever-changing electoral map, while Democrats do, right? So they can look at a state like Nevada it used to be a red state. All right. They could look at a state like Colorado and say, you know what, we can make this double-digit blue. We could look at a red state or a battleground like New Mexico, and it used to be a battleground, right? Virginia even, right? And they would play for these. Well, Republicans were, relying on the goodwill of Southern voters. Georgia's never going to go blue. Texas is never going to go blue, and they made no attempts whatsoever to offset the electoral college disadvantage that they had, and we're going to continue to have going into the future. I think Maine, Connecticut, there was even, I'll leave some of this out, but there's going to be a bigger shift here. You may have saw me beat up Jen on Twitter. she's leaving the GOP, right? I'm leaving the GOP. She left the GOP.
Bye, sister.
She's not she's like, this isn't the party of Lincoln anymore. Spare us this party of Lincoln nonsense. Donald Trump won more black votes than he won more black votes than black people you've ever seen in your pathetic white elite life. Okay. You're leaving the GOP because it's less friendly to white elites like you. That's why. So let's get real. So my point is,
don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, just goodbye. What can I tell you, right? I mean, are we supposed to pretend like she voted for Donald Trump either in 2016 or 2020? I'm talking about Jennifer Horn, by the way. She was the co-founder of the Lincoln Project. They're pretending now like they were going to, they're pretending now like they just left the Republican Party and like somehow, they expected after Trump was gone that they'd return, but now the party of Lincoln is gone. Are you kidding me? Anyway, the party, the GOP, has more non-white people membership now than the party she joined many years ago. So that's a ridiculous, nonsensical argument. So yeah, I think that you have to move into other other areas, other arenas. You got to play in other areas. You cannot win the game if you don't even play, right, Laura? I mean, that's what I always tell them. How would you know if you didn't try? I mean, Democrats might have lost that seat in Alabama, but they played there, didn't they?
Well, like
and they got it for a moment.
Ask the question, it's already no. So
yep.
You might as well ask the question
and
figure it out. All right, tying into Cameron O'Brien, is there a poll that states why Republicans would or would not be voting in the runoffs? I disagree with friends who believe Trump's election challenges are what will cause Republicans to lose the runoffs.
Yeah, that's not it. It's actually a lack of the party fighting with him. There's just no doubt. It's not that Trump is causing some kind of depression. That's not it. The party members that are going to vote are the party members that you would expect would vote for David Perdue. These are like they're reliable Republicans. The Republicans that he and Loeffler are having a problem with right now don't live outside the Atlanta metro area, with the very metro Bill Kristol Republican kind of thing, right? Or Karl Rove Republican. They're not having problems with them. And if you check, I mean, we didn't specifically ask that, but the tell is in the region. Who asked that question?
Oh, that was Cameron.
Cameron, the tell is in the region. All right. Really, the north, the central, and the coast south are Republican areas. And if you look, the coast south, where all of that white working class resides, the Trump Republican, the Trumplican, that's who is not. That's the problem. So it's not the Mitch McConnell Republican. It's not. So, and you can see that by the region. That really is the tip off. It really is. And I have, I think Rasmussen may have conducted some polls that showed whether or not people thought that Trump should keep fighting. There is no downside. There is no downside to backing Trump in his fight. There's only a downside if you, like my son says, fold like an omelet. Right? All right.
Aaron Sinclair, is it true that Trump got 500,000 more votes in Los Angeles County this time than he did in 2016?
Well, we can check. There's still, I'm not even kidding, votes still counting out there. No, I mean, it's just about pretty much in. But give me 1 second, and I will give you the exact number, okay? Let's do that. That's a great, God, these ads by Google. I always, throttle them down because I don't like going to other websites and getting killed with ads, so I don't want people to go to mine. You know what I mean? All right. Let's go to Okay. I'm going to my maps right now, and I will give you the exact amount. Yeah, see, Biden's ticked up now to 81.268. Really, 81.2 is, you would think, enough, Laura, but California, let's look at California from 2016. Okay. All elections, past elections, jump to state, California. Detailed results. Sorry, guys, you got to go through the motions, my new maps. I frankly like them better. Okay. All right. In Los Angeles, Trump won this time around 1,145,000 votes. In 2016, boy, this old stuff is old. He won almost 600,000 more votes. Yes.
Wow.
He sure as hell did.
The other question is, what do you think
And
about...
Joe Biden won, hold on one second.
Oh, sorry.
About 1 million more votes. This is where, though, guys, you would expect a lot of what we're talking about to happen. Let me just go to the voter file real quick and tell them, because the voter file in California is so ugly, Laura. It is so ugly. Hold on. Let me tell you guys the difference in legitimate registrations versus the dead and change of address flags in California and how bad it is in Los Angeles. So if you're going to look at a state like this, is a perfect example, frankly. Oh, I just killed myself there. Boom. Yeah, so, but still, if you look at the percentage of the increase, Laura, it does look like Trump increased his percentage by about 50% more than Joe Biden, you know, but in the end, California accounted for almost all of Joe Biden's popular vote margin. Almost all. Think about that. It's crazy, right? All right, let's look at the geography by county. Los Angeles. Okay, by the way, there were a total of this year. This is going to be the tip. Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me. This is crazy. There are a total of 17.5 million votes in California. See, I haven't gotten to this part of our little investigation yet. Mm-hmm. Folks, let me just tell you, that's almost every single one of the voter records in California. I'm not even joking. I kid you not. There are 21 million records in California, but millions, about 5 million, are BS. I mean, just nonsense, like garbage. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. By just garbage. I don't know why this is looking like this.
Right.
But wait, I just want to tell them how many are unique households. That's the state summary and analysis report, because there is a big difference in Los Angeles. Exclude the dead and exclude movers. I'm going to add the movers and the dead, and I want to see what it jumps to. Okay? Because 5 million votes total record in Los Angeles, but they're saying 4.3 million people voted. Guys, that's ridiculous. That's just flatly ridiculous. There's not really any growth there, Laura. You understand what I'm saying? There's just not. So there's no reason for there to be this big of an increase. It's just not.
Cemeteries have rights too.
I guess. I mean, this is a bit nuts to me, guys. All right, let's get rid of the dead and deceased. I mean, now you're starting to approach levels of turnout that are near mandatory voting nations. And it just, especially when you have a state where the rolls are this dirty. You know, it's just, yeah. So in Los Angeles, guys, there are 1.6 million. Let me say that again. 1.6 million change of address flags and dead people suspected. And here's the deal. Like, you know, if you watch this show, it's always worse than that. Always. Because the state takes time to catch up. All right. So it's always worse than that. Or no, I'm sorry. Let me just fix that. About 700,000. I'm sorry. I skewed a number up. But in Los Angeles alone, there are at least 700,000 change of address and deceased voters on the voter rolls. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy. All right, but it is 1:30 and I got to get ready to go with Robert. Okay, so let me just read. And Butterfly, thank you. And all of you for the super chats, thank you. All right. Yeah, I know, Lisa, it's nuts. I mean, really nuts. I mean, in 2016, Hillary Clinton got in Los Angeles about 1.9 million votes. Joe Biden got a little over 3 million in Los Angeles. I'm talking about. His entire popular vote margin comes from California, almost about 1 million off. But you could easily do that with New York, who also was counting votes. for weeks and weeks and weeks after. They're approaching, Laura, 8.7 million, 8.6, over 8.6. And it's like, you know, after 2 weeks, you're still counting votes. There's a serious problem with your electoral process, you know? All right. So don't forget, guys, in 30 minutes, because that's what I'm going to run. I'm going to eat real quick before one of the odds. At 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back with What Are the Odds. Barnes and I will talk a lot more about the legal stuff that we're seeing here. We'll talk, we got a lot of different things that we're going to talk about, including the polling and what's going on, but the Georgia ruling that we're going to speak about too, and all the great stuff that we have on our minds.
Just brainstorming for like maybe tomorrow we could do like
Monday.
Monday.
Can't be Monday. Monday and Tuesday we will have. Oh wow, that's right. Then that backs us to Christmas Eve. I got to go to Tampa. I was asked to go and talk to Turning Point USA. They have their annual event, they have their annual summit, and they asked me to come and speak there about election integrity and polling. So we'll share that video with you when we get there. I'm going to be on a panel with somebody from the Federalist too or something. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Really cool. Happy Charlie Kirk and the guys asked me to do it, and I'm happy to do it. So yeah, we'll figure it out. But tomorrow, the Don Smith Show, 12 o'clock noon, and Laura and I may pop on for an hour tomorrow. All right, that's what I think we should do. Yes. We really should. All right.
Because we're going to be gone
so, all the best. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. And of course, the best way to support the show is to become a member at PPD. But again, if you are a Facebook user, we're starting finally to pick up some likes. If you're a Facebook user, we neglected it for all those years. We very much appreciate it if you mosey on over there and hit the like button for People's Pundit Daily. We'll see you at 2 p.m., folks, Eastern Standard Time with more today, 2 p.m. All the best.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come